all rely upon, and potentially bad for our environment and the natural beauty of the United Kingdom. So what can we do to alleviate the strain on what is a vital industry? Joining me now is Bruce Jobson, good friend of this programme, good friend of mine. He's an agricultural journalist, and there he is. You've been actually writing about this stuff for quite some time. Do you sense that it is now getting to that critical point because of all of those issues that have come together right now?
Correct, Alistair. Thank you for inviting me back on the programme. Great to see you. Yes, I've been writing about this roughly for 2 decades, going back historically. Now, the last 18 months has changed the dynamics of farming and the environment, and the drought has had a consequential effect above what was happening in farming. And I have to give credit to your programme and to GBNews for bringing these issues when other mainstream media and newspapers were not doing that. They were transfixed on Partygate all through January, February, March, April. The real issues affecting the ordinary people was food and how they're going to get it. And I've spoken on your programme, you may remember it, and I've been out on farm with Rachel Sweeney, and we've been doing things with Dougie Beattie, who's done a fantastic job. But farmers are under pressure like I've never known in my lifetime, and perhaps even my father and grandfather's lifetime, because that is the effect. What farmers cannot do is, one, they can't control the weather, and two, they cannot control presently costs. And for example, diesel fuel, when that started rising, when fertilizer was starting rising, these were things that farmers could not have any control over. And I've said on this programme, and Dominic was standing in for you, that, for example, a growing cooperative in Fife had cut back in February by 26% because the costs were prohibitive. And this is what we're facing. We're facing an absolute, perhaps nightmare scenario that has something which has happened 10, 20 years ago. And that's the sad part. We've not really looked after farming the way we have looked after other aspects.
Bruce, I want to butt in because I buy that and hinted at a lot of it in the introduction, and you've confirmed it for me. But I'll tell you what worries me, and we've talked about it and other people in the sector on this programme, is that the government in some senses seems to be encouraging this exodus, either because they want farmers to rewild instead of grow crops, and a lot of farmers are honked off about that. And the other thing is, in the context of the energy crisis, a lot of farmers I've spoken to, not least down in Hampshire, are saying, do you know, we can make a better turn on our farm and on our land by laying out solar panels rather than growing arable good wheat, barley and the rest of it. And the government want them to do that because it helps on the energy crisis.
Correct, Alistair. But can I take you back to the dying days of Theresa May's administration? And I wrote about this, is that she passed by statute. It wasn't voted for in the House of Commons. It wasn't debated. It wasn't debated in the House of Lords. It was passed by statute to go to net zero. Nobody had any say in it. And even Mr. Hammond had said it was going to cost £1 trillion then in 2019 prices and 44% of GDP. Farming as such went out the window. To achieve that, Alistair, you have to take out roughly 20%. This is the Office of Statistics, the government's own body, which said 20% of agricultural productive land would have to come out. So what you're seeing is exactly correct. You've got farmers who are turning to planting trees for carbon offshoots. You've got multi-million-pound corporations buying estates and land, for example, in Scotland. 50% of the estates that were sold last year were by institutions who are offsetting their carbon. Massive companies doing that, or airlines. I'm not going to mention any. I don't want to get you sued, Alistair. But this is what's happening. And, farmers, it's far better. I know several tenant farmers who are on what we call short-term tenancies, 5-year, 10-year. They're being told to get off the farms. We're planting trees because for the estate or the landowners, it's more productive. And that's the problem that we're having. And I'll give you one little instance. I know I've said it on your program in the past. 20, 30 years ago, we had 80% self-sufficiency. The government claimed, therefore, we're down to 50%. I think it's below that. Yeah. But if you take 20% out of UK productive land over the next 10 or 20 years, you're going to end up at 30% or 35%. I actually said on Mercy and Bev a couple of weeks ago, what we have as an environmental policy, we do not have a food production policy.
All right, Bruce, going to park it there.